Glad to have you join us again on Lagos Television. My name is Omololu Rosanwo. Today on Talk Point, we shall be looking at the 2026 Electoral Act Amendment Bill. There have been hues and cries over this amendment bill, which is now an act as passed by the Senate chamber of the National Assembly through the conference of both the National Assembly, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. Now the bill has been passed and it is now an act, which is a law, waiting for the president to append his signature. His assent is also required. But before this, there were issues surrounding the transmission of results, but specifically the real-time, that's how it's put, real-time electronic transmission of results. Issues have been surrounding it and people have been saying, look, divergent views here and there on how it should go. But today we'll be looking at how to further explain to Nigerians what this is all about, because the difference is that some will be for it, some will be against it, but we are in the middle trying to explain how the situation is concerning the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, which is now an act, just like I said earlier. I have a guest here that will also do that education with me. He is a civil society activist and also a public affairs analyst and a member of the Coalition for Good Governance. Nelson Ekujimi, nice to have you on Talk Point.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon, viewers.
Yes, just like I said earlier, there are hues and cries on this constitution, but on this amendment bill, rather. Can you take us through it? Let's understand what it is all about in your own explanation.
Well, thank you very much. The issue around the 2026 Electoral Act Amendment Bill is unnecessary if we really want to be sincere with ourselves. And why do I say this? In the 2022 Act that was signed into law by late former President Muhammadu Buhari, there's a provision for electronic transmission of results and or the use of Form EC8A, which is the documentary evidence. But, you know, after that 2023 general elections, when there was a glitch with regards to the transmission, and some persons capitalized on that and claimed that it allowed the results to be manipulated. But fortunately for Nigerians, even when they went to court, the court, they made, in their petition, they admitted deploying 33,000 polling agents. And under the law, we know we have about 176,000
yes, 76,000
polling units across the country.
Yes.
And in their petition to the Presidential Election Tribunal as well as the Supreme Court, they were unable to tender just a result from a polling unit, of which the result from that polling unit differs from the result uploaded to the IREV. Because what happened was that because of the technical glitch, the results could not be uploaded to the IREV immediately. But we must also recognize that under our Electoral Act, when elections are conducted in a polling station, the law mandates that at the close of polls, when results have been counted and the scores by each party is entered into the result sheet from ECAT, that form becomes valid when party agents countersign the result sheets and they are given copies, including the security officer present. And the law also mandates the presiding officer that before he leaves that polling unit, he must paste it on the wall. That is the copy that a lot of we observers and even voters, that is what we snap as our own copy. But if you now say you want instant transmission of results, is it that the result will be transmitted before collation and sorting? Definitely no. But the National Assembly, especially the Senate, even helped the matter the more by putting that clause that the results that will be transmitted must be results signed by the presiding officer, countersigned by the party agents. That is the result sheet that must be transmitted. So the hue and cry by some persons over real-time transmission. Real-time, because the Senate or the House of Reps, none, and I've not seen any of the gladiators who have said electronic transmission should be jettisoned. But what we are saying here is that as much as we are doing electronic transmission, because of the challenges that come with technology, let us have an alternative, a fallback. If you remember in 2023, I'm an observer. I've been an observer in elections since 1999. And I remember vividly well in 2023. In the course of that election, when some voters will come to a polling unit and they will think this is where I'm supposed to vote, and on looking through their voter's card, you recognize that the polling unit is not where
different, yes.
It's different. So for you to be able to assist, INEC gave the link to his portal. We could not log into the portal on that day. It was after the election, when there was this hue and cry, that the Minister for Digital Economy came out and said there were 12 million attacks on INEC server. So if we are saying electronic transmission, what is the reality of the Nigerian situation? As we sit here, in some part of even Lagos, if you are using a particular network, you cannot make calls. You will not have internet facilities. Not to talk of interlands across the country. My place where I come from in Ondo State, that's the Laje axis. A lot of that area you cannot use, you cannot have internet access.
And they also have to vote.
They also have to vote.
Votes
have to be counted there.
So how will that? Yes, that's what we want to know.
That is the question we should be asking ourselves. So if the senator said results should be transmitted electronically where internet is available, or the use of Form EC8A becomes the source of collation. So it means Senate is conscious of the fact that the infrastructural deficit might make transmission electronically impossible on that day. And also don't forget that our politicians are very funny. Some persons right now could be planning that, look, once that law is made, we don't need to go and campaign for people to come and vote. All we do is to acquire jamming devices and ensure
create
that
a glitch.
That the results are not, and once results are not transmitted instantly or real time, and it is inserted into the law, then it means whoever has conducted that election has violated the provisions of the law. That is why the Senate said, look, we cannot, like we always see in Yoruba, we say, onokon woja. Even when you are building a house.
Meaning, you have to translate it.
Meaning that there are so many roads into a marketplace. Meaning that when you are building a house, common sense dictates that you should have more than a single entrance. God forbid if there's an emergency. And when there's an emergency, everybody wants to escape for his dear life. Father will not know mother. Mother will not know daughter. So if you all want to pass through the same entrance, and you are clogged, what happens? You become casualty. So what the Senate has done, and the House of Representatives are concordiously, is that, look, we are for electronic transmission of results, but we cannot guarantee real-time transmission. We cannot guarantee immediate transmission because the technology is not in our hands. It's even beyond the technology, the telecommunication service providers. You and I are here. Some months back, vandals went and blew up transmission lines in Bayelsa State. For close to a month, the whole of the state was in darkness because the transmission line that will power the state was down. You and I are also aware that every day telecommunication service provider come out to complain about vandalism of their base stations across the country. Today, in some parts of this country, terrorists, bandits have blown up all these telecommunication lines that people in those areas, they have to travel thousands of kilometers to even make calls, not to talk of, because if you're able to make calls, Then you have internet facilities. So if you are not able to make calls, how do you have access to internet? There was a time I used to run a business in Abua Odua in Rivers State. In Abua Odua, I don't know for now, you cannot make a phone call in some part of that local government. You have to go to a particular part of the local government. That is where everybody runs to make.
Even in some areas, deep in the southwest, in some areas, I've heard cases where some have to go on the mountain, or somewhere higher to get signal.
You and I know, even when because of the technological shift in financial transactions, a lot of us these days, our financial transactions is usually by electronic transfer. You hold your phone, like I operate about 3 telecommunication lines. You use your phone, you want to make a transfer. You try one of the service provider, it will not go. You try another one, it will not go. In fact, it will even get to a stage, you'll be like putting your phone up there as if the telecommunication, the internet service is a magnet, that you want to magnet it. So when you move, you just realize that, oh, the internet service is here is better than if I'm standing here. So in a situation whereby you say real time means if election outcome has been concluded at 12, because when the presiding officer is writing the results on Form ECT, the allocation for time is also there. Yeah. So if election has ended at 12:05 p.m. and the young man or the young man is unable to transmit it immediately so that the result will read the same 12:05, that becomes an issue. So and also don't forget that this is the same technology that at times people make electronic transfer and you not receive it until 24 hours.
I'm even bothered because during elections or when you're using this telecommunication operations and everything, everybody's clogging at that particular time. And so how will this happen? How will INEC manage this situation? Because that's also very key. But the issue now is, how do people outside Nigeria, the Western countries, how do they manage it? Yes, I know in America it was used, electronic voting was done, which we are yet to do. Yeah. But for the transmission, it was done also, although they still relied on paper. Yes, that was during Biden's time.
Yeah, election results, transfer or transmission all over the world is not a one-way traffic. Even Elon Musk said that it's subject to manipulations. People can hack into the system. You remember the United States of America presidential election in 2020 when Donald Trump lost, and he claimed that the Russian hacked and they manipulated the process. So if almighty America, UK, France, Germany, India, with their technological advancements, are not doing instant electronic transmission, how much less Nigeria that we know that we don't have the level of infrastructural facilities that they have. And also don't forget that technology works with the weather. Once there's weather disruptions, technology is at risk. We have had situations where, due to technological glitch, airports or traveling is shut down in the UK, in the US for days because there's a glitch. Somebody said, oh, what of the banks? And I said, are you aware that some persons hack into the bank's server and they perpetrate fraud? Why do we have cases of banks, bank fraud?
And they keep sending out message that we do not click on social.
Yes, why? So the reality of our situation is that nobody's against electronic transmission. But what we are saying is that we cannot guarantee instant, immediate, or real time. What we can guarantee is electronic transmission. And we now said Under the electoral law, parties must have agents at polling stations. And polling stations agents will have copies of the result sheet. So any serious party, let us also educate our viewers. When election is to be held, any serious party recruits party agents. And some more serious parties don't even deploy one. They deploy two. Because you can deploy one to a polling station, and on the election day, the young man or the young woman maybe before 6 or he doesn't show up. So you have a fall guy, to rely on.
It happened to INEC, the last election, because some of the ad hoc staff didn't show up. So there were delays.
No, even Omololu, if you remember, when INEC is deploying BVAS machines for accreditation, INEC also makes it mandatory that there are reserves. There are some BVAS machines that will work optimally in the office. Before deploying machines, they would have run a test on the machine. And when they get to the field, the machine will pack up. It is not the presiding officer that will call the office. That is why on election day, you see INEC technical staffs going around. So that if there's any issue with your machine, they quickly call for a replacement. Because they know that this thing can, even human beings, you leave your house at times, you get onto the road, you start having running stomach. So even we human beings, we don't have control over our system.
Even the vehicle you're driving
may
develop faults.
That is why the National Assembly is saying, look, we are for electronic transmission. But for you to say electronic transmission should be instant, and for us to make that a law, knowing fully well that there are challenges that could make it impossible to operate on that day, we will not run with it.
Yeah, but some Nigerians are not seeing it this way. They're seeing it as if the Senate particularly, because they've exonerated the House of Representatives, they're saying the Senate are a bunch of people that do not want to accept change. They do not want development, and they do not want it to operate as it is done outside Nigeria. So how do we look at this situation? And also, you talked of party agents. Yes, it also builds on political parties now to say, look, you must provide at least one polling agent in every polling unit. That's about 167,000. Yes, 176,000. How do they manage that? How will that happen, considering all this? And how do they pay them?
Let us also inform our viewers that since the election ended in 2023, INEC at the state level as well as the national level have been meeting regularly with all the stakeholders except the voters. I belong to civil society organizations. We have met severally at INEC stakeholders engagement. INEC will not wait until election day. We've had engagement since 2023. We've had in 2024. We've had in 2025. Even this January 2026, on the 28th, INEC, the Lagos State Office, had a stakeholders engagement with political parties and the media as well as observers. I'm sure we were all there. On the 20th, I remember that.
Yes, even before then, INEC had a retreat in Lagos.
Yes,
bringing all national commission and rec so that they can also meet on this.
Before election day, INEC has engagement with political parties. And before election day, INEC will even give political parties a compendium of all the polling units. It's always in a flash drive. They hand it over to political parties. And even we observers, when we are collecting our kits, they give us the flash drive. They give us a CD entailing the rules and regulations governing the conduct of the election. So when people come out and say they want to rig, the question I put to them is that elections that will be rigged will be conducted by human beings. Elections that will not be rigged will be conducted by human beings. The greatest advancement that INEC has made with regards to our election is the use of BVAS machine. That is the biometric voters accreditation system. With the BVAS machine, once the number of votes exceeds the number accredited on the machine, it means there has been overvoting, and automatically the vote from that polling unit is cancelled. That is why on election result announcement date, where you see the returning officer will say in polling units 1, 2, 3, we cancel the result. And when they are asked, he will say there is overvoting.
Overvoting.
The man was not at the polling unit. But it is because of the technology by INEC. That is why he discovered that there was overvoting. So when you are saying e-transmission, you are saying it will guarantee integrity. No. What has guaranteed the integrity of the electoral system?
The beavers.
Is the beavers. If you remember, Lolu, before the introduction of beavers, in this same country, you will find polling units with 500 registered voters. At the end of election, the result for the polling unit will be that 500 people voted. But since beavers was introduced, in some polling units where you have 500 voters, hardly can you get 100 people to vote. Results that will be returned from polling units are 70, 80, 90, at most maybe 120.
Well, that could be. I want to believe apathy may also be.
No, it's not. No, it's not about apathy. It's because of the fact that tenet of one man, one vote, that you cannot vote for somebody by proxy. The beavers machine has even political parties that are serious, they can even rely on beavers to say, okay, when they post result into at the wall of the polling unit, let me go and snap it and start.
Okay, Nelson, I know time is not on our side. I want to believe that we'll still have time to come on air to further educate Nigerians on this. We'll still find time to call you on board so that we can continue to educate our citizens and the electorate on some of these issues. I've been speaking with Nelson Ekujumi. He is also a civil society activist and also a member of the Coalition of Good Governance. Thank you, Nelson, for being on Talk Point.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, on that note, we have come to the end of Talk Point. 767 and 112 are still the lines to always reach out to when emergency situations arise. I am Omololu Rosanwo. See you some other time.